presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy, shortly before the DNC as he was assassinated in Los Angeles in the Ambassador Hotel. Lyndon Johnson, the incumbent president, didn't want to run again, as a majority of the American people saw him as being responsible for the Vietnam disaster. Instead of Robert F. Kennedy, the DNC in Chicago nominated Hubert Humphrey as the Democratic Party's presidential candidate. But the event was overshadowed by anti-Vietnam protests in Chicago's streets and by heavy-handed police brutality. Consequently, Hubert Humphrey lost the election to the Republicans' Richard Nixon. To avoid a repeat of this already large looming disaster, the Biden administration at the very last moment is now desperately trying to give the impression that they're trying to bring peace to the Middle East by sending Secretary of State Antony Blinken there. But at the same time, the administration is continuing to send billions of dollars worth of arms there, without which the massacres wouldn't be possible in the first place. Once again, it will now become clear that actions speak louder than words. And it is all but certain that there will not be a ceasefire agreement. And it is next to impossible that the current vice president has the power and the competency to change this, as she, up until just a few weeks ago, in her own party, was seen as a, quote, empty suit with no ideological rudder and no moral compass, end of quote. If, as a consequence of all this, the hitherto held in check responses to the ongoing massacres and the killing of the moderate chief negotiator for Hamas finally materialize and set the region on fire, we, I believe, will see that there is a big difference between the current U.S. administration and the American people. I'm sure the latter will neither be willing to allow the massacres to continue, nor will they be willing to be themselves, be human sacrifices in that war. I'm absolutely 100% certain that this is true for my relatives, at least. A few years ago, Donald Trump spoke about a shithole countries, and he was, maybe with Joseph Conrad's book, The Heart of Darkness in mind, referring to African countries. Well, if such a shithole place does exist today, it can only be the town of Göttingen, with its, as was on display over the past 10 months, obviously utterly corrupt judiciary. But what started with a New York Times article some 3 years ago explaining how this place is the center of the destruction of free speech in Germany has only now, through this criminal proceeding, which, by the way, is representative of this judiciary, as I was able to explain in a French interview very recently, been exposed as the judiciary shithole that it really is. And there's much more to come. If the court continues with this course, the inevitable end result will be this judiciary's final downfall, just like in the movie The Downfall, Der Untergang, about Hitler's last days in his bunker. Only this time it'll play out before the eyes of the international public. Both the impending crash in the Middle East and the one in shithole Germany will happen, I believe, in all likelihood, once again, almost simultaneously. That is over the course of the next 2 weeks. But afterwards, things will get better. And we should be ready to grab the steering wheel, we on this side of the fence, that is, and make sure that there will be real freedom, real peace, real health, and real education for all of us. Because the other side is now completely incapacitated. We have everything it takes, including the right people for the job. The others have nothing, only money, our money, and we will take that back. The last thing we should be afraid of is our own power and strength, our own abilities. Nothing and no one can stop us, least of all those who Pink Floyd were talking about in their song, Comfortably Numb. See you all soon.